Hi, everyone. Steve Westman. Welcome. Rhino High Fidelity. This is our, I guess, our almost monthly announcement of the next two Rhino Hi-Fi. I'm going to bring in right away, you know him from Rhino Hi-Fi, Mr. Patrick Milligan. Hello.
Howdy.
I get the salute today. How are you?
Yeah. I'm good. Good to see you.
Well, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
This
Well,
morning, when people watch this video, they'll be able to order the next two Rhino Hi-Fis. I think
and
we
if
should.
I have to say that I were ever made two hi-fis for myself, these would be in that category.
So this would be your pick, huh?
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
these are albums I love, and I'm super happy to have as hi-fis.
So let's just hold both of them up, or I can if you want. Doesn't matter. There we go. What are we looking at, Patrick? What are the folks seeing at
We're
home?
looking at Graham Parsons' Grievous Angel, his second solo album, posthumous, and we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of this album. Came out in 1974. Then we have Emmylou Harris's Luxury Liner, a classic of hers. Sounds amazing.
1976.
1976, yeah. And Luxury Liner is probably most people, if you're Graham Parsons fans, know it is a Graham Parsons song that was done in the International Submarine Band. So,
well,
they sound amazing as usual. If I have to say so myself, Kevin did a wonderful job, and they're a super great listen.
I do own.
Everybody was wondering what September was. It's Americana month, and
so let's talk about that Americana.
Country rock records, or as Graham would like to call it, cosmic American music. So,
I just opened up the Graham Parsons Grievous Angel. That's what it looks like inside. Nice. Just, of course, beautiful. What to expect from what we expect from Rhino Hi-Fi at this point, right? And we'll get into the. I can get the liner notes. We'll just quickly show everyone here.
The luxury liner notes.
The luxury liner notes. Yeah, but here's the Graham Parsons. There's that one. On the Graham Parsons one, what's the name of the album? It's Grievous Angel, right? Angel. So the master tapes show us as being the title "Return of the Grievous Angel," which is a song, right?
But the title of the song, yeah. Sloppy people writing stuff, or maybe it hadn't been locked in what the
probably not
title was. Originally, the album was supposed to be a Graham and Emmylou record called Sleepless Nights with a photo of the two of them on the cover, but Graham's widow did not like that, so she kind of reworked the album and took the song Sleepless Nights off, which came out later,
wasn't there like 3 songs off Grievous Angel that went on to, it was a Flying Burrito Brothers song after album after he passed, right? Okay.
Yep.
I did like the
out. They're all really good. Well, actually, Rhino, several years ago, James Austin oversaw it. I note that James Austin did the interviews for the notes in here with Emmylou and with Albert Lee for her album. That there is a very exhaustive Graham reprise set that has all that stuff on it.
So I'm looking at the Grievous Angel right now, the tape boxes.
The Capitol, as you can see on the top there, the Capitol tape box sheet.
It is right there, yeah. Mm-hmm. So what was nice about this when I opened it up, show the folks here, I mean, James Austin did an interview with Emmylou Harris about this album, right? So, I mean, she is interviewed throughout. And
it's fascinating. I mean, her just telling how the record was made and Graham's last work, it's just, and you can see the appreciation she has for what he did.
I also like that you added a little blurb from Polly Parsons. That would be Graham's daughter.
Yep. And Polly was very excited about this, very supportive. I sent her copies. She loves them. And hopefully she'll be out there talking about it too. So she's very, very sweet lady.
Well, I mean, I can get a little bit personal there. After when I first got this record from you, about a week or 2 ago now, I was playing it, listening to it behind me here, and my 4-year-old daughter was dancing while we were listening. So I took a video and sent it to you. And what did you do with that video?
I sent it to Polly.
What did Polly, he texted you back and you sent me the text. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, Polly came back and she said, "That is so adorable. It definitely made my day."
It made my day. So yeah. I told my daughter that she thought that was so cool that someone that someone from the album was pretty much talking to her and liked the video. So I thought that was really cute.
Oh,
So,
that's
but
sweet. That's sweet.
appreciate that. That's
You
really
should cut
cool.
that video into this. Oh,
Yeah,
you don't want your kids on the internet.
yeah, you don't want to do that, but
Yeah,
it was really cute. So if you're not if you're not really into Graham Parsons, tell the folks, or don't know much about Graham Parsons, tell the folks sort of what genre, what style he sort of was.
Well, Graham had his hand in a lot of different projects that really were sort of the early instigations of what most people know as country rock. And as I said, Graham eventually came to call it cosmic American music, but it's basically, simply put, hippies playing country music and sort of imbibing a little bit of a rock and roll and bringing in some soul elements. And so Graham, like a lot of people of the era, started off as a folk singer playing in clubs in college and stuff, but got interested in country. And the first band that he was involved in was the International Submarine Band. And if you don't have that record, it's worth seeking out. It's a great record. And that is the album that the song Luxury Liner comes from, that Emmylou covers. Record was on Lee Hazelwood's label, sold barely anything at all, was not at all successful. And the band broke up, and Graham ended up in one iteration of the Byrds, and was involved and heavily influential in their album Sweetheart of the Rodeo, which is a classic. Again, if you're a Graham fan, you know that record front and back like I do. It's an amazing record. So again, was not a big seller. The Byrds kind of didn't really gain a lot of fans from that on either side. And so he was in the Byrds for exactly one album and then left, and then formed the Flying Burrito Brothers with Chris Hillman, who also left the Byrds after Graham. And they made two albums, both really good albums. The first one, Gilded Palace of Sin, is a real classic. And he left that band. They stayed together for a while after that, but then he made his two solo albums for Reprise, his first GP, and then Grievous Angel, his last album that was recorded in the summer of '73. And then Graham, shortly after finishing mixing the record, went to Joshua Tree and overdid it and passed on. And so this record came out after he died.
So in the liner notes, James Austin interviewed Emmylou here, and I just love what she said. He was saying, Graham Parsons was obviously an architect of country rock, and she went on to say, it's certainly true, but he wasn't aware of it when we first met, even after I recorded with him on GP. So I mean, and she really saw or got to experience the real genius that he was, and she even goes on to say.
So he turned the course of her career, basically, because
yeah.
she was also a folk singer. She had made an album, and she was in Washington, D.C., part of that scene, and I don't know how serious she was, but she made an album early on that was basically kind of a folk album. And it was Chris Hillman that saw her in a club that recommended her to Graham. And they ended up getting together. And at that point, Emmylou didn't know that much about country. Graham really turned her on to that, and obviously she was made to do that. She fully embraced it, and then carried the torch. Once Graham passed on, she kind of continued sort of the format of what he had been doing, and I think to great effect, and obviously to much more success too.
What goes on in the interview here too, that James was asking Emmylou, she was like, I was only into listening to folk music growing up, but her brother had a large country music collection, so she had her George Jones, Buck Owens, people like that, but she definitely wasn't into country music at that time, so just folk music. So yeah, it was a big turn for her. Was she part of the hot band she was with?
The hot band was her backing
band. Okay, yeah.
Which largely grew out of the group that's playing on the Graham Parsons record.
Right.
It's Elvis Presley's backing band, basically, his tour band. And by the time we get to Luxury Liner, James Burton is taking less of a role. He's on some tracks, but Albert Lee comes in and he becomes the guitar player for the hot band. And both of those guys are just peerless guitar players. It's funny. I've told this story I think before, but James Austin, as a matter of fact, who was at Rhino, we were both at Rhino at the time, had James Burton in the office one day, and he brought him by to introduce me, and I was like thrilled to death because he's a super cool guy. I talked to him one other time too, but the next night we had the Concert for George premiere on the Warner lot, and Albert Lee, who was in the show, was there, and I ran into him in the lobby, and I was like, "Oh wow, it's so nice to meet you. I've met two of my favorite guitar players in 2 days." He said, "Oh, who's the other one?" I said, "Albert Lee or James Burton," and he said, "Ah."
And James Burton was more rockabilly, I guess, sort of a rockabilly guitarist
James
during the
Burton
Presley.
came out of he started off with Ricky Nelson, and just he has kind of his own style, and it's sort of that chicken picking sort of thing that comes out of rockabilly to some extent, but is very country, and huge influence on people like Clarence White and Albert Lee, obviously, that are probably my three favorite country guitar players, all Telly players. I'm kind of a Telly fanatic. So
two of the songs that really touched me was, of course, Hearts on Fire. I mean, Return of the Grievous Angel, of course, was a big hit, and obviously a great song. But Hearts on Fire for me, which is, I think, was an Emmy Lou pick, if I'm not mistaken, for that album. I think it was more of an Emmy Lou thing than a Graham's Parsons song. Just a lovely, lovely song. And the one that, I mean, in my era, I get a laugh at all the time because, I mean, growing up, I listened to Nazareth, the band, right? And they had a song called Love Hurts. And so on the second side of this album, the song Love Hurts, which is originally an Everly Brothers song. So listening to the Graham Parsons version of Love Hurts is a lot different than listening to the Nazareth version. And I will tell you, this is... get your box of Kleenex out. This is a very melancholy type of sound.
It's an amazing performance by both of them, and it's a great example of how the two of them sing so well together, and just how, because they have very different voices. I mean, he's kind of a craggly, he's not like super polished, and Emmy Lou's like just can follow anybody. So it's an amazing combination. And I seem to recall that was released as a single later, maybe a remix for some reason, and it ended up winning a Grammy, I think. So very well deserving. But yeah, the Everly Brothers version is great too, but it has nowhere near the kind of emotion that the Graham and Emmy Lou one does.
And I guess Nazareth took it a different direction.
There's for more anguish, in an in-your-face kind of way.
I love when in the Grievous Angel, the liner notes, I'm just looking at them now, but I love what James Austin asked Emmy Lou. It's like, when you first heard the playback of the album, what were your thoughts? And she said, I left before the album was completed, but she did hear the rough mixes, and she said, I knew it was going to be something special. When she heard just the rough mixes of this, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it is too. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful. It just kind of fell through the cracks of what would get any attention. It certainly wasn't completely tailored to what was going on at country radio at the time, and not really rock radio either. I mean, there might have been some more daring FM stations that played it. I mean, that, they toured and they did FM appearances and live shows on FM, so they were getting some attention, and completely under the wire. But
I think every song on here really tugs at your emotions. If I was to describe how I felt listening to it, I mean, I do have another copy of this album, another cut of this album from different cut of it. But yeah, I mean, great backing band on all of these songs as well. And overall, I think Linda Ronstadt was on this album, if I'm not mistaken, as well. She was on, was it Brass Buttons? I want to say, yeah, Brass Buttons. She was on as well. So incredible.
In My Hour of Darkness.
Oh, it was In My Hour of Darkness.
Yeah,
I apologize. Okay.
No, fine. Yeah, and Byron Berline, who is, was probably the finest session fiddle player out there. To tell you a funny story, when I first moved to California, I was living in Redondo Beach, and a couple of friends of mine and I went into a Pizza Hut that was in like a little strip mall, just a tiny little dinky hallway of a Pizza Hut. And there was a bluegrass band playing. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I'm sitting there, and I realized all of a sudden it's Byron Berline playing fiddle. I'm like, the guy just loves to play so much that he'll come play with people in a Pizza Hut. It was really cool.
So I'm glad that you're able to get these cut one of your two favorite albums. I mean, must be a dream come true when you're an A&R here for Rhino and you get to actually get the two albums that you actually want to have in the hi-fi collection. I do want to point out as well. We'll get into this in a second, but the Emmylou Harris. This is the first female artist
The
from
first
from the
hi-fi,
hi-fi collection,
yes, it is.
and I'm hoping more.
I'm hoping so too. Now that I
Okay.
realize it, especially.
Yeah. And we can probably get into that. I mean, unless you have some more stories with Graham, and we could talk about this all day. But I also want to get into the Luxury
It's just,
Liner album as well.
I hope that people embrace this. I think it's a really great record, and if you know the record, of course you know that, and you're probably going to be excited to hear a hi-fi cut of it. If you don't know it, it's definitely worth checking out. I kind of feel a lot of people were that way about television, that people that knew and loved the record, but there were a lot of people that's like, I don't really know it, but I think I'm going to check it out, and they ended up loving it. So I hope this has kind of a similar. Really love to see a lot of people that don't know this record or don't know Graham Parsons get turned on to this, because it's such good music.
And I appreciate the fact that you're cutting things or reissuing things that aren't just out there a million times, which is nice. So when people are adding to their collection in the Rhino Hi-Fi world as well, you're getting the best sounding cuts of these albums as well. So I mean, this is great that we're getting stuff that hasn't you don't see all the time. It's not just the run of the mill reissue that we normally see out there. So I appreciate that.
We try to do that. I mean, it's you want to get things out there that people will buy, of course, and you don't really want to do things that have been overdone, which sometimes we probably err on, unfortunately, for various reasons. But
yeah.
And you can't get too far out of the way that people are just like, I'm not spending $40 on this record. But I think, and the other thing too is I think this is a really great pairing of records. They certainly go well together. I mean, they're obviously intertwined in a lot of ways. So.
Well, speaking of intertwined, so I'm going to hold up the Emmylou Harris Luxury Liner. 1976, it was originally released. And you said at the very beginning that the song Luxury Liner was a Graham Parsons song. So written by Graham Parsons, and she obviously
she kept the Graham torch going, and she kind of made a point to put at least one of his songs on pretty much all of her early albums, maybe with a few exceptions. But she definitely wanted people to know about him and show her influences. So and her version of Luxury Liner is amazing. Albert Lee's guitar playing on that is just insane. And if you hear the International Submarine Band version, they're very different, because their version is kind of slow and chuggy, and Emmylou's is very upbeat. It's kind of almost like Las Vegas on the Grievous Angel album. It's got more of that kind of a vibe. But.
And I will tell the folks too, Emmylou's, I don't know if they were married at the time, but
I think they were married at least.
They were married. So Brian Ahern was her producer and husband, fellow Canadian from Halifax, Nova Scotia. They recorded this whole album. It was mixed on his mobile truck. And it absolutely sounds great. And I will tell the folks as well, if you listen to a digital version of a remastered version of any of these Emmylou Harris albums, I think the way Brian produced it and mixed it, he had like 3 different reverbs in it, and you hear it on these albums, especially in the analog cuts. You don't hear it. It seems really mixed together on the digital side if you listen to the digital remasters of it. So there's definitely a difference. And you really want to argue about analog versus digital, especially when you're getting it from the tapes. You're going to hear the reverb the way Brian wanted, the way Brian mixed it and produced it. There's definitely a difference.
Brian was so good at what he did. I mean, he's a great engineer and producer and musician, for that matter, too. He plays on the records and just kind of, I think, helped with the arrangements to some extent. But the musicianship on both of these records is just impeccable. And it's guys who are monsters that can do anything, but that are tasteful and kind of, know when to come in and out and put themselves in the song and when not. And they're perfect records.
And if folks don't know, on side 2, she does a great Chuck Berry song, C'est la vie, which is one of my favorite Chuck Berry songs, and does a great rendition of that song.
Yeah, it was a pretty big hit for her, too.
I think that actually charted, didn't it, at the time in 76, right? And then we were talking too. The Dolly Parton is on this album as well. It was When I Stopped Dreaming. Actually, I think that was the one that she had supporting vocals in. Yeah. Now that I remember, now it just hit me. I think we're getting too old. Just you have all these things all of a sudden. Oh no, I forgot something. But yeah, another great album. This is the thing. I appreciate what you're doing in terms of the quality you're putting out for the price as well. And you guys are reissuing stuff that hasn't been done a million times over. And this is another one, right? And this isn't something that I grew up listening to. I want to, Emmylou Harris. You can't have everything, right? But I really appreciated this and really appreciated the way it was produced. Like I was saying, her husband produced it from the mobile truck, and really, he had an interesting way of engineering and producing her records, and you definitely hear that in the sound. And that's why I was sort of going back to listening to some of those digital remasters, and it definitely sounds different than the analog cuts that Kevin reissued. So really good job there. I think the way Kevin remasters, he does keep it probably pretty close to what the original
He kind of
tapes are.
stays out of the way and tries to get it. Just he's not trying to be radical at all. So
and I definitely heard that when I compared it to my digital versions. There's definitely a difference. So great job on this, and I really enjoyed it. Like I said before, it wasn't really my genre. Of course I've heard of Emmylou Harris clearly, but it's not something I have boatload of her records. But now that I have this one, guess what I'm doing? I'm going out and buying original. Because you get the Canadian pressing.
Her run of albums, to me anyway, all the way up through Roses in the Snow, are just impeccable. All produced by Brian. I think he did the next couple after that too, and they got divorced shortly after that. But
I was reading an article about Brian, and he says his biggest regret in life was divorcing Emmylou Harris. But even after they divorced, he was still. I think he produced one or two of her records even after the fact.
He well could have, and they still talk.
Wanted to thank you again, Patrick. This is incredible. Now this is limited to there's not limited 5,000 numbered copies. Let's just get that straight.
Correct.
We're doing 5,000 numbered copies, and then possibly more after that. Is that what's going to be happening after?
I think what's going to drive that is if something sells really robustly and well. And if these sell out at 5,000 each, nothing more would thrill me more in the world. And if there's demand for more, then we would think about it.
So coming out. Well, it's out right now. If you're watching this video, you can go to the website, Rhino Hi-Fi, grab these two. Right now, they're out $39.95 each, right? Plus shipping. Now, I should ask you, you always give us Easter eggs. What's going on in November? Or what's going on in October? Anything in October? In
October.
So we're not doing a video we're not going to do a video in October, Patrick. Oh God. Okay.
And we can do one on Halloween for the next one.
So then...
Well, I'll give you a little Easter egg.
Okay, November then. Tell us November.
We're going to have 2 different release dates of 2 different things.
Ooh. So in November, there could be something at the beginning of November and the end of November type of thing?
Somewhere, yeah. Okay. Different weeks.
Now, jazz. Can we go into jazz rock, all that, or what can you reveal?
Rock.
Both rock?
Yep.
Ooh. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Well, that will be. I guess a lot of people will be guessing in the different forums now after watching this what it will be.
Go on.
That's all you can give us, though, right?
One of them is going to be something pretty unique.
Ooh, unique. That's still vague. Unique.
Still ahead.
That's going to be fun. So that's probably sometime 2 different release dates in November. That'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited about that. And only more exciting things going forward. I guess 2025. I'm assuming you guys have some great things lined up for next year for the Rhino Hi-Fi label.
We do. Yeah, we're still locking stuff in, getting permissions and things like that. But we kind of know our wish list.
So before we wrap this up, again, everyone, I get a lot of people asking me, hey, Steve, tell Patrick this album or that album, The Smiths, The Cure, all that stuff. All of these bands, I know you read all the forums and you see all the ideas. I mean, I've told everyone that, and you and I talk a lot, and, I've given you all those ideas before. Now, tell the folks how easy or hard it is to get the band or the management even contacted first, and then for them to agree with all that. Like, it's not as easy
Well,
as people think.
the bands you mentioned have a particular extra layer in that they're UK rep, and we have to go through our the Warner UK office, and work out getting tapes from them to be able to do Smiths or Echo and the Bunnymen. Cure is kind of its own situation because they're not affiliated with Warner in the UK, but New Order and Joy Division and all that stuff is through the UK. I will tell you, I'm talking to them.
Ooh.
We're trying to figure out a way to be able to do this. So never say never. I just don't know when, and we're still
Another Easter egg. You heard it here. New Order, Joy Division, looking at doing it from the analog tapes. Oh my gosh, that would be huge.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's exciting.
And then the Smiths has its own, approval kind of issues too, beyond just dealing with UK reps. So.
Well, and also too, right? I mean, they're sort of not. They don't like each other any longer.
Yeah,
that's another thing.
Some things get over the line. It just kind of depends, but I don't know. I mean, I've sent some things to other managers of things we want to do, and I've got to say most of the response has been pretty positive. In fact, a couple of managers said, "Oh yeah, actually, I bought." It's like, okay, cool.
So, would you, as an A&R, let's say when you got the ZZ Top box and you've got obviously different promos, would you be sending them out to different bands' management, say, "Hey, look, this is what we can do for you"?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's smart.
Yep.
So you would have done that for the bands we have talked about then today, possibly, maybe.
About, you mean the Cure and all that? No, well, I just sent a big package of hi-fi goodies to the Warner UK cohort. So.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This is fun. See, this is the thing. This is what people want to hear. So I know, I know we talk a lot. So I know you're always trying to get the best for everyone and trying to get stuff that's fresh. And I mean, you are absolutely doing everything you can to do it, which is exciting leading into next year.
Yeah.
Now, next year, would you guys do one a month or two a month? Is that what
I think we're still going to go every other month.
Every other month. Okay, yeah. So we're looking at least 12 different cuts next year. Okay. Yep. And box sets or just single albums, you figure?
Hopefully more,
Yeah.
We have to see. I mean, we're pleased with how ZZ Top did.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I have to tell you, I've heard back that Billy is really, really pleased with it and loves it too. So that's gratifying too. He's really happy with it.
So then the question is, I've been asked this. I guess I'll ask you it. You can say yes or no, or just tell me to go take fly a kite. But ZZ Top box number 2, is there a possibility?
I wouldn't rule it out.
Whoa. That's because the first box, I grew up with the ones, obviously the 80s box, the 80s albums, obviously.
Yeah, so the MTV hits.
I was an MTV kid. Come on, that would be huge. I have been reading a lot of the posts, same as you. So that's a lot of people have been asking. Oh, I'd love to get the ZZ box.
I've seen that a lot too. So I'm like, okay, well, we should certainly consider that because people seem to want
Well, it sounds like good news. If Billy likes the first box, why would you not want to do the second one? It's interesting. Okay, there you go. Yep. Well, Patrick, thank you. I'll put them up again. Get them on the website. Grievous Angel, Graham Parsons, Emmylou Harris, Luxury Liner. Very, very nice. Very happy. Well, I guess we'll talk again in November for the next 2 big releases. Yeah. I'm excited to chat about those ones. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks. Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.